Welcome to Baha'i.chat. My name is Steve Sarowitz. I'm subbing for David Hoffman today. I'm happy to have everyone here with us today. To tell you a little bit about Baha'i.chat, this is a conversation series dedicated to our interconnectedness. This is a chat where we can share different spiritual ideas rooted in the Baha'i Writings and the fundamental teachings of the oneness of God, religion, and humanity, led by individuals like Mark and Azi today, who are putting these principles into action. We are live streaming today's conversation on Facebook. You can find the link for the live stream in the chat box at the bottom of your Zoom view. Now, what is the Bahai Faith? We consider the Bahai Faith to be the latest chapter in God's eternal faith. And we consider this era that we're living in to be the Baha'i era for all of humanity. And so Baha'u'llah has revealed the equivalent of 60 Christian Bibles, and he's revealed really a roadmap to world peace for all of humanity. We're living in this great day, foretold by every one of the previous messengers who have established the major world religions. Baha'u'llah was God's latest manifestation. And what Baha'u'llah means is the glory of God. He appeared in Iran in the middle of the 19th century, bringing an unprecedented volume of teachings. And again, telling us that our mission is to unite and be one human family. Today, we have some special guests, but before I bring our special guests on, Josefina, if you could put up those quotes. First quote is, "To define the fruitful years of youth exclusively as a stage of preparation would be to overlook the creative energies which are available to youth in such abundance. The great being saith, regard man as a mine rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom." And so why did I choose these quotes today? Really because I wanted to celebrate what Mark and Azi are doing. Today we're going to meet Mark and Azi Perry from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Azi Rohanian Perry works at the UNC School of Dentistry as a clinic manager. Her husband, Mark Perry, teaches at UNC's Department of Dramatic Art. Since 2001, for 20 years, they have lived in the Triangle area of North Carolina, where they love to work with children, junior youth, and where they join with others in learning about community building. Together, they wrote a biography of the martyr, Mona Mahmoudnejad, called Our Friend Mona. I read it. I want to tell everyone it's an amazing book. I highly suggest reading it. And they're hoping to release a Persian cookbook soon, based on recipes from Azi's mother and her siblings. Azi and Mark, welcome to our chat.
Thank you.
I am very, very excited to see it. I love what you're doing. I'm the parent of two 17-year-olds myself, and I see firsthand the huge need for really spiritual learning among youth, and how much youth today are hurting and really waiting for this. You know, I think it's not that I think youth are playing video games because the video games are that attractive. The youth are playing video games and doing things like that because we haven't shown them that there's something better. And I really give kudos to the two of you for doing that for so many years and really showing the youth what else is out there. So without further ado, why don't you tell us about what you're doing?
I can start with a prayer for youth. This quote that's up here is the beginning of this prayer. O thou kind Lord, graciously bestow a pair of heavenly wings unto each of these fledglings, and give them spiritual power that they may wing their flight through this limitless space and may soar to the heights of the Abha kingdom. O Lord, strengthen these fragile seedlings that each one may become a fruitful tree, verdant and flourishing. Render these souls victorious through the potency of thy celestial hosts, that they may be able to crush the forces of error and ignorance and to unfurl the standard of fellowship and guidance amidst the people. That they may, even as the reviving breaths of the spring, refresh and quicken the trees of human souls, and like unto vernal showers, make the meads of that region green and fertile. Thou art the mighty and the powerful. Thou art the bestower and the all-loving. Abdullah.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us. And Steve, thank you so much for warm welcoming. Friday night youth, since 2014, we have hosted youth gathering on Friday night. And it's grown a lot over the years. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, we generally had 10 to 20 youth who are either participant in the study circle or tutoring.
Every week's a little different, actually, the makeup of the group. And that's one of the joys, is we get to check in with different groups each time. Just to give you a sample, I'm hoping that some of you out there will be inspired by us removing some of the mystique around this idea. But we'll just give some practical advice if you're interested in working with youth yourself. And people of any age can do it. Or say adults of any age can do it. So you've got, we meet on Friday nights, and we generally start gathering about 6:30, and we start singing and prayers. We have a lot of music. We have, it's just part of our thing, just having a lot of singing. We have a songbook. We'll get into that a little later. We have prayers. And after that, we'll check in with the youth, see how they're feeling, and we'll have a breakout into study circles. So we've got one in our living room, we've got one in the office, we've got one in the prayer room, usually there's about 3 study circles going on. Sometimes we've tried to do 4. We usually set up for dinner around 8:30, clean up 9:30. Everyone has time to check in with each other. And then they have time to socialize. They have time to play games. Honestly, Steve, as many years that we've been working with youth, we still haven't got past the video games thing. So if they're going to play video games, they might as well do it in a group of others. And I'm partially joking. A lot of these individuals serve in various capacities, but video games are a part of the culture now. So then sometimes we'll go for a walk. I think the neighbors know right now to expect about 10 o'clock, a group of youth walking down the street making noise. And no one's called the cops on us. And then they tend to peter out. Sometimes usually by 11, so we've gone past midnight some nights, and some nights they check in early. So that's, and then we have the last Friday of the month where we drop the study circle portion and we focus on more on devotions. We have extra singing. And that's a time to also for the youth to invite their friends who might not be familiar with it. And so we've gained a lot of new people that way.
So the age range for our youth is high school and college, between 15 to 25. And these youth come quite close. They usually invite their friends. Often they invite their friends from school to visit. They are from diverse racial and religious background. We have some Bahais, but mostly are from Christian and Buddhist background. And almost all are minority background. Minority background, yeah. And but most of these youth, they either teaching children class teacher or training to do so, and a couple of them are co-animatoring.
I wanted to talk about maybe our purpose with the Friday night youth gathering. One is to gather the youth in a setting that is loving, safe, fun, and service-oriented. So this is probably primary. To pray and sing together and encourage an attitude of spiritual reliance. Third, to go through the main sequence and to accompany the youth in their service. We'll talk about accompaniment a little later. To provide a setting for planning and sharing learning about children's classes and junior youth groups. And 5, to build strong ties among all the youth and encourage them in all aspects of their lives. I think one of the key things about working with youth is seeing them as individuals and learning to see them as individuals and to care about their whole being, not just what they are doing service-wise or whether they're studying in the Ruhi books, but also, and that's important, but also what are they heading for as a career, what have you. Does that that's tied to it as well. One of the key elements of our working with youth is music. I play guitar. We have probably 8 guitars in the house. A lot of them, you know, just kind of cheap guitars that'll keep tune. And so we do that. We have drums around. People can pick up a guitar, they can pick up a drum. We offer guitar lessons kind of spontaneously. If the youth wants to learn how to play a few chords, we'll teach them chords to one of the songs they know from our Friday night. There are dozens of songs that we have. Some of the youth actually right now are making a new songbook, which I'm excited about, so we can learn some new songs and integrate some new songs into our repertoire.
So eating dinner together is key. Some of these youth, they don't have regular family dinner with their parents because parents work night shifts or odd hours. So we make sure we have enough chairs, tables, and dishes that they can sit and eat and laugh together. We alternate our meals. One night we have spaghetti and meatball with kale and garlic bread, and another week we have homemade chipotle.
Homemade chipotle is basically rice and beans and barbecue chicken and all kinds of veggies. And
so, right, we have a team of the friends that are helping to make sure these youth are getting to our home. But it's getting easier since some of our youth are getting their license, and all the youth can give rides to the
used to be, we would spend a lot of time gathering up the youth and junior youth. So how did we create a youth group? I think the central thing to think about is that we started with junior youth. Junior youth are the ones who have the time, and they have the energy, they have the need for attention and attentiveness. So we started back in 2002 working with junior youth in the Baha'i community. And the one on the left is some of our Baha'i kids that we work with. That was 2002 to maybe 2008. And then on the picture on the right, you can see a number of the kids that were in our Super Junior Youth group. That was the name that they chose for their group, was the Super Junior Youth group. And what we learned from working with junior youth has also carried over to our work with youth. One thing we learned, and look at how young we are there, actually, Azi, you pretty much look the same. So we learned commitment and regularity. Number 2 is we learned how to orient the junior youth not just towards study, but towards service. And then by the time we were like several years into working with Baha'i junior youth, we had started to get some texts from for working with junior youth in particular. So we started working with those texts. When we started working with the youth in the neighborhood, and this is outside of the Baha'i community, there might have been 1 or 2 Bahais who came into the Super Junior Youth group. For the most part, when I say Bahais, I mean children or junior youth from Baha'i families. What we learned when we started working in the neighborhoods was how to invite and engage junior youth. We learned the power of using intensive camps, like where we meet every day for like 5 hours or something like that during the summer. And we learned how important those are at establishing deeper relationships with the junior youth. And then finally, what we kept trying to do, and that was a struggle, to be honest, was how to share the Baha'i vision for the framework for action. Meaning that this is a system that we are using to go from children's classes to junior youth groups to youth groups or to study circles, and then to spread that spirit of service, that this is a continuum. That took a while to get across. Even though we'd say it, we talk ourselves blue in the face. It eventually got across.
Phoenix Place is one of the neighborhoods that we serve. In one of the Saturday afternoon in November 2010, I went to pick up the junior youth for their group. And one of the mothers said, what about my younger one? They need classes too. And I said, if you open your home and invite help me to invite other kids. We can start children class. So following week, I went and she invited 6 children, which eventually we had more. But because result of that, in 2015, we have our first ceremony graduation at the children class camp, and 7 of our junior youth, one of the children, they graduated from children class, and the following week, they started junior youth group. So Mark became the animator, and the teacher, she was one of the youth from the neighborhood, she became the co-animator. And in 2018, we have the second round of the children. They graduated after 5 years. And one of the youth, she was their teacher. She became the animator, which later on we're gonna introduce that teacher to you. So currently we have multiple children class grades. We have 2 junior youth group, monthly devotional gathering, and some of the youth from the neighborhood, they attend Friday night study circle. And at this point, we have a team for our neighborhood, the youth from the neighborhood and Mark and I. We plan the next cycle activities for the neighborhood together. With one of the challenge we have, that's parents, they don't speak much English, but we are very close. We are really like a family, and they trust us so much. And one of junior youth and youth, they organize a cookout for the community and invite everybody together. And the parents, we talk about what they want to see in their neighborhood, and they said they really like to have an English class, that the English can get better. So I told them I'm not an ESL class teacher, but I can teach them what we are teaching their kids. And they agreed. So since then, we chose the quotation from Ruhi Book 1 and Book 3, and we wrote a dialogue based on the codes. And we had 12 lessons. And then recently, Mark and I finished our Book 13, and we learned that other side of the world, they are using junior youth texts for the ESL class for parents. So next week, we're gonna start Wellspring of Joy, one of the texts. It's gonna be our new book to do that.
I should say that Phoenix Place was or is a neighborhood that we work in. What we have on our Friday night with our youth group is a network outreach, or we have, like, we started in a neighborhood in 2007, 2008. And what happened was that by working with junior youth, that eventually expanded because the kids started moving with their families, and they moved from apartment complexes where they were clustered together, where we had a neighborhood junior youth group. And then they started moving around. So we had to go around, pick them all up, or try to start a junior youth group, a new junior youth group in their area. And it led to, it's like a crisis and victory, right? You have, oh no, what do I do? Because this isn't out of balance. But then you're like, well, you adapt and you go for where the confirmations seem to take you. Phoenix Place was one of those new neighborhood that some of those families moved to, that we were able to start a new group of activities in. We were able to start children's classes, eventually junior youth groups, and now many of our youth are in that area. So all of the activities are going on. So it's really about maybe starting in a neighborhood and then you see where it goes. So I want to say one more thing just to talk a little bit about how we transition from a junior youth group to a youth group, because this might be useful for some of you who are thinking about this. We used to do the super junior youth group, which had times 20 junior youth in it, which is a lot, and it's probably more than most can work with. The great thing was they were so well behaved. That was unbelievable. You'll see many of our junior youth and youth come from an Asian background. A lot of them are coming from Burma, from the Karen ethnic minority, which is a persecuted minority in Burma, in the eastern and the mountains area. And a lot of them sought refuge in Thailand. And so a lot of them are coming from refugee camps, and they sought refuge in the United States and have been settling in small cities around our country. Anyway, that was where we found that the refugee community was actually very receptive to our program. So this Super Junior Youth group was working on Saturday afternoon. And once a certain group of them started to age out, and you can see in this picture 4 of our dear ones in the middle. We've got Ken, Muko, Papa, and Riri. And they, in 2013, attended those youth conferences that the Universal House of Justice blessed the world Baha'i community with, these youth conferences. And what this did was it helped create in them the vision of what the program was. And so that really helped us in our transition from a junior youth group, which we would get kids to be 15, 16, and then they would just drop out. They wouldn't like kind of hold on to the study circle that we were trying to offer them. But this group, it worked, and I think it was the magic of that youth conference. That's when we started moving from Saturday afternoon to a Friday night, and then it became theirs. And what we did is we would take a lot of time to go through the Ruhi books. It might take a year to go through book 1 or book 3, but we made sure they understood it. We would write the quote up, and we'd make sure they understood all the words, because these are ESL students. And we knew that from the very beginning of our junior youth group. We had to move very slowly. But the thing is, you don't have to wait till you go through the books to start with service. As a matter of fact, many of these kids came from households where service was going on. They naturally came up with children's classes. They knew how to do junior youth because they've been in it for years, and they get it. They know how to work with children. They watch us. And so when we do the book, they're like, oh, that matches that. Our group melded with another group, or another 2 groups, and we had a growth spurt in the summer of 2016. So we went from, you can see on the left, that picture, that was about an average Friday night for us. And then we went from that, and now the average is more like what's on the right. So it was growth, and by having that core group, that could hold the center while the other kids came in.
So the key element of our effort is unwavering commitment to meeting weekly. We rarely cancel. If one of us is busy, the other usually make it work. This could be holding a children class, junior youth, or any other activities that we have. So even if the attendance are low, if it's a 1 or 2 kids or junior youth, we make sure we are holding the class and make it special for them. So I think our constancy is a best example that we can give to this young one.
Yeah. Another thing is creating strong family-like relationships with a core group of those youth. And that comes from looking at all aspects of their lives, caring for them, just being with them, spending time with them, helping them with homework, or, doing the things that need, getting to know their families. This is, one of the things is people sometimes say it like, this is an effort of service for us. Well, they're our dear ones now. It's not just about service. It's about, you love these people, so you want to be with them. And when you love someone, you want to offer them what you can, or help them find what they need. That's the key. I think when you start working with youth, and when you start working with junior youth and children, as probably many of you already do, you might know this, they get under the skin, and that's the key to doing it. It's just opening yourself up for those relationships. Another thing that helped us expand was partnering with mature Baha'i youth who also have their outreach. Frankly, they are out there teaching more than we are, because we have jobs and what have you. But by going out there and doing their service, we give them like a central point where they can invite the youth that they're meeting, and they come together with the other youth, and they get the vibe that, oh, you mean it doesn't all have to be about the physical world. I can have the spiritual existence as well.
Accompaniment and empowerment. Accompaniment is something that we all trying to learn about. But for us, is a start by discussing the youth individually, where they are, what their needs might be. And these can go for, doing a phone call, text messages, meet them in person, accompany their service, and of course, pray for them and pray for our community. But the empowerment and peace involves thinking ahead of what the next steps of next step in the advancement of their service and themselves.
Finally, give them food, have an environment of music, give them comfortable couches, and they will do a lot of the magic themselves. And you'll be astounded at how open so many youth will be to service, to discussions about truth, and to the spiritual reality that they sense is more real than the society around them is teaching.
So we thought before we introduce our beautiful youth, we end up with singing a song that the youth wrote it themselves.
So this song is based on 2 Baha'i prayers, but it was put together by a group of the Super Junior Youth Group, some of the older members of that, who were really good at guitar playing and singing and writing songs, actually.
Suffer us not to rely on all else besides thee, and what's safe unto us, thou which thou lovest and desirest.
You have seen these 3 in several of the pictures before that you've just seen in this presentation. Sarmuna, Muko, and Nabil, will you reveal yourselves? We have known each of these youth for ages. We're so happy to have them with us. You want to say anything? I'll just embarrass them.
No, I mean, we know Nabil since he was, I think, 3 or 4. He moved to North Carolina, and I realized that he really likes working with kids, and at very early age, he started teaching children classes, and now he's part of the coordination team for the children class. That it's such a joy to work with him, and he's just amazing. Samuna, we know her, I think she was 5 or 6 years old. And she went through children class, and then she went to the junior youth group. Now she's trained for both being a children class teacher and animator, and she was serving, and she is serving. So her kids just graduated, as I was mentioned earlier, in 2018, and the last 2 years now she's their animator. Muko, my goodness, yeah, Muko was 10 or almost 11 when she joined our first junior youth group. And she's with us all this time. She left for 4 years for college, and now she's back, and she's serving in the neighborhood with the junior youth group with us. So they all are so dear, and of course they're like our own kids. We have so many of them, but these three, we invite them to be here with us.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Muko. Like Mark and Azi said, I've known Mark and Azi since I was 10, 11 years old, so for about 12 years. And thank you for having me today.
Hi, my name is Nabil. I am 18 years old. I just graduated high school. I have known Mark and Azi since, like they said, I was like 3 or 4 years old, since I moved to the same community that they live in North Carolina. And I've been joyfully attending the youth space they host on Friday nights since I was in 9th grade about 4 or 5 years ago.
My name is Sarmuna. I'm also 18. I graduated this year. I've been part of this Baha'i community since I was 6 years old. So for 12 years now, I've been part of the Triangle in North Carolina.
Now, one of the things that I love about the Baha'i program and the Baha'i and the youth classes is you don't have to be a Baha'i to participate. So 2 of you are not Baha'is, is that correct?
Yes.
How has it been for you from your perspective to participate in the program for all these years?
I personally feel that I've been so lucky to have been part of the Baha'i community for all these years, especially starting from a very young age, because coming from a Christian background, from a community where our religious belief is like very, where we're just Christians, we don't really associate with other religions. It's been a blessing to have been a part of the Baha'i community, because it's shown me, it's introduced me to a community that accepts like so many other religions, that this the Baha'i community shows me that there's no discrimination of what your religion is. Everyone is welcome, and it's been a blessing because it's given me an opportunity to feel like I'm part of a community like other than the Christian community.
Thank you. Nabil, you've been a Baha'i your whole life. How have these classes enhanced your experience as someone who was raised as a Baha'i? How has it helped you?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that a lot of Baha'i youth face as they grow up is this, they see so many Baha'is around them engaged in service to their community. And, it's kind of it's ingrained in the culture of the Baha'i community. And, in my case and in many other cases, we grow up in Baha'i families that have a long history of connection to the faith. And to be able to participate in these activities is such a blessing, I think, because it provides a space where service is really something that one can take ownership of, that it's not something that our parents are making us doing, or that we feel pressured to do it, but rather it's something that we're working towards together and with joy, and something that you can serve as little as you want or as much as you want in as many different ways as are needed. And I think that's really wonderful. And then also just to be able to be in this space where, we're working together with so many people who, from just being in a space with people from so many ethnic backgrounds, working with people who are Baha'i, who are Christian, who are Muslim, who are Buddhist, in one space for the same goal. I think that's beautiful, to the point where, you don't know who's a Baha'i or who's not a Baha'i. It's just, maybe someone, is a Baha'i, but they don't call themselves a Baha'i or whatever. It doesn't matter, because we're all working towards this beautiful goal together. And I think that is just so wonderful.
Well, of course, as Baha'u'llah taught us, we're one human family. And so what we choose to call each other is not important as much as what's in our hearts. And Abdul Baha said, of course, very famously, that the color of one's heart is more important than the color of one's skin. So whether you're from Burma, or whether you're from Britain, or whether you're from Ethiopia, or even Iran, for example, it wouldn't matter, because God knows the color of your heart. So where you're from, the color of your skin, whether you're a man or a woman, these things are not important. but service is important. Sarmuna, you've been doing this for a while. What has particularly touched you or touched your heart as you're doing this work?
What's touched me is the connection we build, and that it's not just the service that's important. It's the relationship you build in your community and the connection you build with the kids and the families, and there's just bigger trust, and that goes a long way. And that's why their family also asked me to be like their interpreter sometimes for other stuff, and it's very deep.
Thank you very much. I have some questions that people have asked. Mark and Azi, do you have anything to add before we go to questions?
Yeah, I think one of the things is one of the things that's happened. We originally had this notion that, oh, we have a Baha'i group of junior youth now when we started, and then we had a group of kids that were not from Baha'i families. But what's happened in the past several years is at our house on a Friday night, the youth are all together, and like Nabil was saying, there's no sense of distinction between one and the other. We don't see it, they don't see it. I think Sarmuna said the other night, she said something so funny. She said, I had no idea Maridi was a Baha'i. You know, she said, Maridi is one of our youth, our local youth, who just went to do service in Kansas City. And it was just that he went to do that service that made her ask the question. So there's no sense. Everyone's reading the same material. Everyone's having discussions about the same thing. And those names become external. Like you were saying, like everyone else was saying. But I just want to describe that. It's not something like a game we play with each other. Like, I just forget. Azi and I have to be like, oh yeah, who's that person?
Well, that's wonderful. Couple questions I want to bring in since we've been having questions. This first question was, of course, COVID is on everyone's mind. And I'll say this for Azi. How has COVID, what kind of changes have you had to make during COVID?
So, of course, it's got its own challenge, but it's got its own blessing as well. We are meeting on Zoom Friday night. Of course, we can't eat together, but we still have our study circle and devotion. And most of the youth, they come on Friday nights. We're still having that. And it goes same with our children classes and junior youth group. About a couple of weeks ago, Samuna, Muko, Mark, and I thought it's good to go back to the community, maybe with the social distance, to have a face-to-face class again and group. And we did it for a couple of weeks, and we did this service project, but we realized that now there is some cases going on in the neighborhood that we have to be cautious again and back to our virtual. So it has both, but we still have to be because of our normal life right now. So how we can continue our core activity even during this pandemic.
We meet with sometimes we'll have dinner with about 2 or 3 people.
Yeah,
that's like the extent of it.
Yeah, recently
outside.
We started staying outside having dinner with 2 or 3 of our youth.
Do you miss coming over, Nabil, Muko, and Sarmuna? Do you miss them? Oh yeah, they miss you. Could see that already. What about when a new youth comes in? Now, the 3 of them have been doing this for years, and maybe I'll ask any one of you who wants to answer for the youth. What happens when someone new comes in and they don't know all the terminology? How do they adjust to getting into when someone new comes in? How do they get up to speed, you might say?
Yeah, so when someone new comes into the group, and some of it, like me, Sarmuna, and Nabil, we've been in the group for a very long time. So when somebody comes in, we ensure that we take the time to explain to them terminology to make sure that they don't feel like they're an outcast. So we really take the time to allow them to ask questions and allow the youth to speak up and answer any questions that they have. And Mark does a really good job of making sure that Mark and Azi both Mark and Azi and the youth, everyone who's been part of the group for a very long time, does a really good job of ensuring that everyone feels welcome and ensuring that they understand what's going on. So it's like a teamwork, group effort type of thing.
Do you have do you have classes at different homes at the same time, was one of the questions that was asked.
So before the pandemic, yeah, for example, in one of the neighborhood, we have 2-3 houses. So we have children, we get together for devotion all together, and then we divide for the class. So we go, for example, Samuna's house, we have our children class. Next door neighbor has junior youth group. So we go to the different homes.
Well, Amuko and Samuna, this is a really neat one for you guys. This is from my friend George Villa. My dear wife Faraday was so excited to see friends from Burma and Thailand because she lived there in 1978 for 1 year and was travel teaching all over Thailand and witnessed a lot of Thai people becoming Baha'is. She also attended a week-long conference in Burma. Over 1,000 chairs lined the streets to attend the 100th year anniversary of the Bahai Faith in Burma. She was so wonderfully surprised just to meet many, many fifth-generation Burmese Baha'is. Baha'u'llah himself sent Sayyid Mustafa Rumi to Burma to start the Baha'i community there, and he was very successful. One village, they all became Baha'is, and it is even called Abdul Baha's village. And so the question, I guess, to Azi and Mark, have you ever been to Burma or Thailand?
Unfortunately, not yet. Hopefully in the future.
Muko and Samuna, did you know that?
That is completely news to me. That is so amazing.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I never knew what the Baha'i community, Bahai Faith was until I met Julian Bach, my brother's friend in high school, who introduced us from me and my little brother to initially children's class. So prior to that, we'd never heard of it, and this is the first time I'm hearing this. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, the Bahai Faith is in 236 communities all across the world. It's in almost every country. And so there's a few countries, for example, in China, we don't have an organized administration. In Iran, we don't have as well because they're not allowed. But in almost every country, there's Bahai Faith. And it just depends on the country. And so sometimes it's quietly there growing and you don't hear about it, but it's there. Azi and Mark, any other comments?
I just want to add something quickly to your previous question about when the new youth come. So if they are from average high school average and there's group of them, they usually have interest meeting, they meet for a few times, and then that's before they come to the, to start the study circle. They really learn, they understand what's going on. But if they are bringing just their friends for just visiting, that's the way that Muko was explaining it. So there is a system of how this youth can get comfortable with the material and the program that we have.
Nabil, do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, sure. I think like the two main things have already been covered. The first is like Muko mentioned, the loving environment, because when you're in that environment of love, like you're immediately welcomed in, but then also when you're confused about something, you can ask and people will answer with love rather than surprise that you don't know or condescension or something, those like unfavorable things that people might be scared of. But then like Azi said, also with formal outreaches where we're meeting youth at high schools or in neighborhoods who are interested, they often go through a series of interest meetings where they learn about like the goals of the community building activities. They learn about some basic like information about the Bahai Faith, the principles of the Bahai Faith. And then really when we're coming together to discuss these spiritual ideas, like, the terminology is really just in general very accepting to everyone. And then lastly, a lot of youth attend intensives, which were mentioned as something that help junior youth bond, but I think help youth bond as well, where sometimes you have a new group of youth who are interested in becoming animators or teachers. They attend an intensive, which some youth who attend Friday night are there, who attend the regular Friday night are there, and then they start coming regularly on Friday evenings, and maybe they don't know a lot of the people there, but they know a small group as well, and they feel welcomed in, and they already have those strong connections.
My question was, okay, I'm a Baha'i, I'm let's say a couple like you, and I'm moving to a new neighborhood, and I want to start this, and I don't know how to begin. what would you say to that? How do I start this? How do I really get started? It's a little daunting to me. Maybe
Right.
you don't have any kids. It's easier if you have kids, but let's say you have no kids, and how did you guys, right at the beginning get started? And I think you said this, but kind of say it to me because I haven't done this.
It's changed the last 15 years that we start to serve. But right now, for example, in the Triangle, we do have a cluster agency, which are different coordinators. We have coordinators for children class, coordinator for junior youth group. So then friends, when they come to the area and they like to start a children class, so they will contact these coordinators and they will help them where they are, what kind of needs they have. So they get a company to start their activities. So it's a lot of, we have a good resource here for helping friends to start their activities.
I think the key thing is prayer and reliance, that this is what we're doing. We're doing this to help do a local version of uniting the world. So we want to be on the right foot when we set out. So prayer and reliance, and going into, I think what we found is that there's a lot of friends out there that you just haven't met yet, right? Go out and who is out there needing attention? Who is out there needing the love that God puts in your heart? And if you have a very rigid thing in mind of what you want to do, you might get that, but it might not be the best situation. Instead, pray, go out there in the world and start following the signs as you're led, and consult with your friends, consult with others for what might be good next steps, and see what is already before you, right? Maybe it's a group of children that need a children's class teacher. Maybe it's a group of junior youth that need an animator. Maybe it's a group of youth that need a house to crash at on Friday nights. The thing is to meet the need of the young people that are out there.
To Nabil, Muko, and Sarmuna, there's a question that was just put out there, and that is, what do you plan on doing? Let's just say you guys are a little older now, and you're now like Mark and Azi. Do you plan on doing the same thing yourself? And if so, do you want to do it the way they did it, or do you want to put your own twist on it? What are your plans for the future? Would you do this yourself? Let's start with Nabil.
Oh, we're going one by one. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think this is something that, I could see myself doing in the future. I think, will it be the same? Probably not. The reality in every community, I think, is different, but the principles underlying it will definitely be the same. Creating spaces for love, creating spaces for unity, creating spaces for people to come together. What it looks like, I have no idea. The Baha'i community is always learning. We're learning about really how to create strong communities, and that's always changing. 15 years from now, I have no idea what that looks like. I imagine, it'll be very much the same with spaces for children, middle schoolers, and youth. Maybe, in the neighborhood where I live, with the neighbors around me, that hopefully, I can spend my adult life in the same area, spending time with those people, but I don't know.
Thank you, Nabil. How about you, Muko?
Yes, I definitely do want to continue what Mark and Azi are doing. And like Nabil said, it's probably not going to be the exact same way that they're doing it now. But like he said, the underlying principles, I want to be able to implement that. From a very young age, the Baha'i community and Mark and Azi have impacted me so much that the one thing I want to be able to do is to give back in the same way that I've been impacted. So yes, I do want to continue, and I want to be, so that's why right after I came back from college, I tried to get back in as soon as possible with the junior youth group and the children's classes and doing the youth nights, because I want to be able to give back to the community the way it was given to me through the Baha'i community and through Mark and Azi and everybody who was involved. So yes, I wanna keep this going.
Well, that's wonderful for both of you. And Samuna?
I definitely would like to continue this because personally for me, these Ruhi books helps us with our daily life, and whenever I feel like I'm caught up in society and I'm losing myself in school, this youth group brings me back down to earth, and it helps me remind me that it's a simple thing in life, like picking up trash around the community or helping a neighbor is what matters. And I've made it this far through life is because of this group. They've been my support, and the one group I will always look up to when I'm losing myself, and I want someone else to feel that way, where their service is worthy and that there's a purpose for them on this life.
I want to piggyback on that just a little bit because Sarmuna and I, like we had mentioned, we're refugees and we come from, a whole different culture, and coming to the United States, and there's a bunch of generational and cultural gap between our parents and our community, and having the Bahai Faith as a support network has been so paramount in our growth, spiritual, emotional, intellectual. And so we want to be able to give that back to the community, whether it's Baha'i kids or kids who are not Baha'i. Just everybody want to be able to give back the way that, like I said earlier, we were given, because this community has been such a huge part of my life, huge part of Shamuna's life, huge part of obviously Nabil's life too. And so yeah, just wanted to add that on as well.
Well, I am so impressed with all three of you. Mark and Azi, thank you for sharing with us today. I think we're almost in an hour. It's just flown by. It seemed like just a second ago we started talking. I have one last question, and this is for Mark and Azi, and then before we wrap up, and that is, do you ask for the parents' permission when kids come for the first time?
Absolutely, yes. So we do have protocol, and regional has a form that we meet with parents, we get signature, and we for sure, they know exactly what their kids are involved.
This is for the children and junior youth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to Nabil and Muko and Sarmuna, I'm impressed with you guys. As I mentioned, I have 17-year-old twins, so I know what kids are like, and you guys are very impressive. I really love your poise. I love your confidence to come and speak, and just your passion for doing this. I'll close with one thing, and that's I was watching my friend Rainn Wilson do a presentation a few months ago, and they did a study with children, and that was it's actually university students. They tested their happiness, and then they told them to go out and do whatever made them happy the following weekend. So they did whatever they thought would make them happy, and I probably can't repeat a lot of what they did in public company, but they came back the next week and they tested them again, and they found out that they were actually less happy than their baseline. So the following weekend they sent them out again, and this time they said, this time we want you to do service. They didn't tell them what service to do. They just said, be of service. So, whether it's helping a little old woman across the street, feeding the poor, the hungry, helping your family, whatever they felt was of service. So they did that. And they came back the next week and they tested them again. So I'd like one of the kids to guess whether they were less happy, equally happy, or more happy than their baseline after doing service. What do you think?
More happy.
Absolutely more happy. And so that's the secret that kids don't know, because until you do it, you don't really know. But the happiest is that makes you happier than anything else, right, Sarmuna? Yeah, myself as well as a philanthropist, I can tell you that serving humanity is really, my wife and I have a family foundation, and the happiest you can be is helping another person. The gift of giving. So really the biggest gift goes to the giver. So congratulations, Mark and Azi. Thank you for your service to the community and to the world. We're all trying to make this world a better place. Over these last few months, we've seen the results of the collective failure of humanity to realize that we're one human family. So congratulations on knitting together a family in Chapel Hill. Thank you so much for the three young people for coming here and sharing your experience. I wish we had more time, but we don't. I just want to tell everyone the next presentation is going to be August 8th. It's going to be the first session, and now it's going to become a monthly series on racial justice with Layli Mapian and Masood Olufani. It should be very good. I know racism is a topic on a lot of people's minds. I think what's really important, and I've noticed this because I'm very active in fighting racism, is that we need the Baha'i guidance. I really encourage those of you who have a chance to go see this session. The Baha'i Writings have a tremendous amount to say, mostly about being patient, kind, loving, and to listen to those who look a little different than you. The three of you, youth, I know you've been able to do that over the course, thanks to Mark and Azi with their great guidance. But this is really the guidance that the entire world needs. And so I really encourage you guys to listen. Mark and Azi, thank you so much. Does anybody have any closing remarks?
I would say that if you wanna solve racism, work with this age group. If you got a lot more returns when you work with young people, because they're ready to hear that message. And if you come to our home on Friday night, you're going to see people from all different backgrounds loving each other. And it's not just about our Friday night, it's about the Friday night you can make. That's what I'd say. It's really within your reach, those of you who are listening. So thank you, Steve. Thanks, Josefina. Thanks, David Hoffman, for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks to our youth. And we'll see you all later.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody. Everybody have a wonderful Saturday, and may everybody serve like Mark and Azi. Have a wonderful day.
God bless.